I'm playing Minecraft every day for a year. Oh, hi there. It's me, the guy making the videos. I just wanted to take a moment to talk about what's the deal with this channel. Like many of you, I enjoyed some of the 100 days in Minecraft challenges, but I found it a bit dishonest, because a Minecraft day is only like 10 minutes of gameplay. Longer if you forget to sleep. With that in mind, I'm currently doing a challenge of playing Minecraft every day and making videos from it. Just like this one. I'm still figuring out all of the details, and will change up things as I see fit. For example, I'm currently cross-posting videos every day to TikTok and YouTube. I could make YouTube just a home for full week videos like this one, or even do something else. Hit me up in the comments if you have any thoughts, because I'm open to every idea. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and roll the tape. This is day 1. I started my daily adventure stuck up a tree. After quickly taking in my surroundings, I hopped down and started punching the very thing I had spawned upon. I gathered some nearby berries for some quick and easy sustenance, and grabbed some sugarcane a short swim away, so that I could farm it more efficiently later. By now, I had noticed I was definitely on a bunch of islands of different sizes, rather than stuck in the middle of a continent, so I crafted a quick boat and started exploring, searching for the adventure that the nearby lands might hold for me. My first stop was a mega taiga biome that held some lovely mushrooms, but the view was blocked by the giant trees, so I quickly got back in my boat. My next stop was some stony shores, which can have some useful resources this early on. I quickly got some stone tools and started harvesting some coal, and also a little bit of iron. By now, night had fallen, and I quickly found myself in a fight against a skeleton archer. I dodged and weaved, and got in real close with my stone axe, quickly taking out my first monster on this world. I then very carefully took out a nearby creeper, before setting my sights on the rare spawn of a spider jockey, a skeleton riding a spider. I dispatched this crazy combo creature and took the bones I had gathered to tame a nearby dog, a helpful companion. I found a small group of sheep and killed them for their wool, before quickly crafting a bed and sleeping the night away. By doing so, most of the monsters from the night time go away, and those that are left are only really an issue if you get too close. In the morning, I took back to the high seas to continue my sporadic exploration of the world I had recently entered. I soon noticed one of the drowned structures under the water, so I went to investigate, as the chests contained within can hold useful loot. This one had a little bit of food and coal, but also a very exciting treasure map. On returning to the surface, I quickly saw the thing I'd been looking for all this time, just off in the distance. A village! But first, I wanted to find the treasure on my newly acquired map. I went to the location on the map, aligned myself precisely on the shore, before digging down and quickly finding the buried treasure. Inside was a few useful things, some extra iron, a heart of the sea, and my first diamond! On the way back to where I saw the village, I saw a small shipwreck, and inside I found a little more treasure. Mainly some even more iron, as well as my first few emeralds. Upon arriving at the village, I quickly set to raiding every useful thing. I first went to the blacksmith I had spotted from the water, and found some obsidian blocks, another bit of iron, and a very useful iron pickaxe. With the sun once again going down, I quickly found a spot on the hill overlooking the village and set up a small camp there. In the morning, I organised myself a little. I made a few extra tools, and I also had enough iron to make my first 2 bits of iron armour. I then returned to the village and used my new hoe to gather the hay bales around the village so I could craft them into bread and use it as my main food source for a while. I grabbed a spare bale that I found to ensure that all the villagers would gather in just the one spot, and then went around the village gathering all of the job blocks as well as all of the beds. I took them to the courtyard area in the middle of the village and set up the job blocks together and all the beds in a nice long row. I added in the extra bell to ensure my villagers would gather in this area rather than elsewhere. I chopped down the trees I could find in the village and used my hoe to quickly break the leaves, and with the saplings from these few trees I planted a whole bunch of trees so I could soon start to gather lots of wood. Whilst up at my camp, I noticed some buildings up on the hill nearby, and I figured they'd have a brewing stand that I could use to make a cleric villager, so I could soon trade for ender pearls. As soon as I got to the village, I grabbed the 2 brewing stands, as well as the beds, the crops, and anything else useful that I could find. Whilst yes, this village would now struggle, my village shall prosper, with the resources of both. On returning to my village, I put down a composter and some farmland, and replanted the carrots and potatoes I had found at the other village. With this simple setup and all of the extra beds, a farmer villager will harvest the crops when ready, replant in all of the farmland, and keep all the spares to distribute around the village, soon enough encouraging the breeding of new villagers for me. I decided I wanted to move in much closer to the main village, sooner rather than later, so I gathered everything important from my camp and moved into a house that is right next to where my villagers were living. I cleared it out and placed all my stuff inside. I also reorganised the entrance to the house with a small fence to keep the villagers out. Next, I needed some Fletcher villagers, and to make their workplace blocks, I would need some flint, so I dug out a patch of gravel from the nearby stony hill. I made Fletcher tables and placed them down. With the village coming together really nicely, I started fencing in the courtyard to keep the villagers from straying too far and becoming zombie food. Oh, and some bees spawned in from one of the saplings that grew near a flower. We'll make use of them later. I did some trading with the new Fletcher villager. I sold him tons of sticks as an easy way to get emeralds, and also I bought my first bow and some arrows. I also got started trading with my cleric villager, as I need him to level up a lot in order to get the trade that I need. By now the farmer villager had been very busy and had used up all of the farmland I had given him, so I expanded the farmland so more food could be produced at once. I then started tearing down the old village houses nearby to make use of the wood and start making space for things. Using the wood from the buildings, I made sticks to trade with the Fletcher, and then used the emeralds from that trade to buy things from the cleric, finally leveling him up to expert, but he did not have the trade I needed. I knew I would need more emeralds to level up another cleric, so I went to harvest some clay from the local area to trade with my mason. While doing this, a pillager patrol showed up. Now I'm definitely not ready for a raid, so I grabbed some milk from a nearby cow before taking out the pillagers and quickly drinking the milk. I had to make sure to do the fighting far enough away from the village so as not to immediately start a raid. Back at the village, I finally saw some of the villagers starting to breed. With new guys in town, I can give more of them useful jobs that I can use to get more useful items. I traded all the clay and used the emeralds to level up the second cleric, who, once he got to expert, had an ender pearl trade. This is an essential item for getting to the end and fighting the dragon. At this point, I needed to get to the nether to get blaze rods so I could craft eyes of ender, and without many diamonds, I couldn't yet dig up obsidian. So I broke ground on a new mine, hoping to find a lava pool. Before long, I broke into an underground cave system, and I started poking around. I noticed that the subtitles mentioned that lava was bubbling nearby, so I started digging in the general direction shown, and I quickly found what I was looking for. A lava pool! So I returned to the surface, and while the raw iron I had just dug out was cooking, I started setting up a portal using the bit of obsidian from the blacksmith at the bottom. Now I just needed to bucket up some lava and use water to convert it into obsidian in place, thus making a nether portal. I got prepared for heading to the nether, which included buying a nice enchanted bow, and then I went through the portal. I very quickly explored the area around my portal and came to the realization that I had entered the nether into essentially a small room. Now I've played Minecraft a whole bunch over the years, so I decided to use my seed on chunk base to help me pick a direction out of this room. I located a nether fortress a couple of hundred blocks to the north and started digging. I bridged over a few chasms and kept digging until finally I got there. I found a blaze spawner just around the corner and quickly dispatched the local blazes, collecting a blaze rod from them. Now I wanted to use this blaze rod to help brew some fire resistance potions so I could much more safely collect more blaze rods. For this I'd need some magma cream, so I went back along my path a little and found a magma cube to kill for its loot. I made my way down and picked up the magma cream. The last ingredient I would need is nether wart, so I was going to have to explore deeper into the nether fortress. I was finally able to safely gather the nether wart whilst making sure to loot chests along the way. Some even had diamonds. Back to the overworld, I got my brewing done and could be much safer in collecting the required blaze rods. I wasted no time heading back. I quaffed the potion and got to work, quickly dispatching many blazes and gathering my target of 10 blaze rods. Back once again to the village, I bought the required ender pearls on the cleric villager. Unfortunately, before I could go to the end and fight the dragon, I was going to need to replace all my tools and weapons because they were almost all broken. Having no spare iron, I went back down my mine to get what I could and decided to use some of it to make a smithing table. The workplace block for a toolsmith. I would just need to do some trading for new tools instead of having to craft them from the raw materials. Unfortunately, my time for playing was up for the day. So with a crunch of an apple, I was done with day one. I started the day by finishing removing some of the houses to make space for a small crop farm outside the fenced-in portion of the village, as I wanted to grow some wheat to start breeding some animals with. Of course, I also need some animals to breed, namely cows and sheep. So I set up a couple of pens using the trapdoor method. The fun thing about making animal pens like this is that they can jump in, but they can't get out. All the while, I can easily go both ways. To lure the animals into the pens, I find the easiest way is to hold the lure in my offhand, so I don't accidentally switch away from it, causing the animals following me to lose interest. I was able to get a bunch of cows and a few sheep from the nearby hills and secure them in my new pens. With the animal farming started, I also needed to get a librarian for the bookshelf block trade that they can offer. If you can't guess by now, I really need to get an enchanting setup organised, and a main component of that is bookshelf blocks, which requires about 50 cows or a couple of stacks of emeralds, both of which take a bit of time to get at this point in the game for me. So I decided to do both methods to keep things fun. Why do I need an enchanter so desperately, I hear you ask? Well, at this point I had 36 levels, which is hard to do as you lose all your levels when you die, but you can spend those levels on enchanting. You need 30 levels to access the highest tier of enchantments, and I have that. So before I go and take on the big boss dragon, I might as well make use of my current levels to get some sweet gear to help fight her. At this point, I really needed some iron to trade with my toolsmith, so whilst looking around, I noticed a third village up on the hill, and went over to take all of their stuff, as well as kill their iron golem for some free iron. When I got back to the village, I decided to mine for iron, and I needed to get some more obsidian for crafting an enchanting table. Unfortunately, when I got back from mining, I realised that I would need one more diamond to make the enchanting table. I started by trying to strip mine for diamonds, so I continued my mine down to just above bedrock. I explored all the caves I found as I went. After a while, and with my super nice and new diamond pickaxe down to just 1/4 health, I returned to the surface. I poked around the caves I could find nearby on the surface to see if any went all the way down to deep slate, but I couldn't find anything. So I hatched a plan. There seems to be a lot of ocean around me. I'd go treasure hunting. I delved deep down into drowned structures. I plundered various ocean wrecks, and I tried to use the treasure maps, but after finding one more buried treasure, all the maps I checked were pointing to the treasure that I had already found. I passed many ocean monuments on my journey, and even spotted the super rare Mushroom Island. But for now, I returned home with an inventory full of treasure. Just not the one I needed. Maybe tomorrow. And yes, just as I got home, I realised that chest boats are a thing. Today is actually my stream day. Every Friday night I stream on Twitch. Usually I'm playing Minecraft, but sometimes other games. Now, based on my current progress in the world, I wanted to aim to do the dragon fight live on stream, so I played a little bit earlier in the day to improve my chances of succeeding without any major issues. More on that later. So I quickly got started on getting my toolsmith to expert level, and used the enchanted diamond axe that they were selling to gather wood and trade sticks for more emeralds, before using those emeralds to start trading with my armourer to get him to level up. I also used my new diamond pickaxe from the toolsmith to do some more strip mining in the hopes of finding that one elusive diamond that I needed to make an enchanting table. Now, I checked the timing on this, and from the time that I started digging out a side tunnel to make a new mining shaft, it took 12 seconds to find the diamonds buried down here. Now, having expected to mine for just a little bit longer, I decided to keep going and see if I could find anything else useful down here, and within 2 minutes I found another cluster of diamonds. I decided that it was definitely my lucky day, and proceeded to return to the surface, firmly clutching my 7 new diamonds to get them safely home. I quickly crafted myself a prized new enchanting table, and realised I was going to need a few more bookshelf blocks, as well as an anvil, so I headed back to the mine to gather some iron. With everything gathered, I crafted an anvil and a grindstone, and finished putting together my enchanting setup. I got my armourer villager to expert level, and bought up a full set of diamond armour. Now, the enchantments that come on armour from the villagers are a bit crap, so I used the grindstone to remove them, and then I used the enchanting table to get some decent enchantments onto my new gear. Later in the day, I actually went live on Twitch, and in preparation for going to fight the dragon, I wanted to try and get infinity on a bow, so I spent some time hanging out with chat and rolling the trades of a librarian villager to get a book trade for infinity. I also grabbed a diamond sword from the weaponsmith, and with a bunch of cobblestone for bridging in the end in my inventory, I got my eyes of ender and started throwing them. Before long, I found the stronghold buried under a hill, and upon digging into the underground structure, I was immediately jump-scared by a creeper, who also released a bunch of silverfish. Thankfully, I was able to quickly find the end portal, so I filled up the portal frame with the eyes of ender. I set up a bed to respawn here in case the dragon gets me, and I jumped on in. I did the usual dragon fight thing, took out the end crystals with my bow, before moving on to do damage. Unfortunately, I did die near the start of the fight because I accidentally looked at a couple of Endermen. I tried to keep them at bay with some water on the floor, but the dragon shot a ball of magic breath on top of me, and I quickly took too much damage. I was able to quickly back in and grab my stuff and finish off the dragon fight. After grabbing a couple of ender pearls from a makeshift ender pearl farm, I went through the new portal out to the end proper and started looking for an end city with an elytra. However, I made a bit of a mistake. Whilst bridging across one of the larger gaps, I was talking with chat, and for just a split second, I let go of crouch and fell into the void. Now, because I had changed my spawn for the dragon fight, I didn't even spawn back at home, so I had to navigate my way back to where I had set up shop. At this point, I didn't feel like going straight back to try to get an elytra, because I would be undergeared for dealing with the shulkers. So I was taking a fishing break, and at the suggestion of my stream chat, I decided to try and make a fully enchanted fishing rod. While trying to get librarians with the correct enchanted book trades, I was talking about how I need to have more ways to get emeralds, and the suggestion for a melon and pumpkin farm came up, so I decided to go and try and find some seeds. The suggestion was to check Stronghold for treasure chests that may contain seeds as loot. Whilst exploring there, I did find a little bit of loot, as well as a couple of library rooms that had some enchanted books, one of which was even going to make getting my fishing rod much easier. I also found a mineshaft intersecting the stronghold, and it was here that I actually found some pumpkin seeds. Ironically, upon leaving the stronghold, I found a couple of pumpkins on a hill nearby that I only hadn't seen because I was always travelling towards the stronghold location and not away from it. Oh well. I got back to base and set up a simple pumpkin farm, and then got to finishing my super duper fishing rod. With it fully enchanted, I went and did a little fishing, and the first piece of treasure that I fished up was literally a half enchanted fishing rod. Good times. I didn't have a ton of time to play today, so I mostly just kinda did some chores. Firstly, even though I only had 4 double chests, finding things was getting annoying, so I took the time to organise my chaos. I now have a blocks chest, a natural/mob drops chest, valuables and gear chest, and lastly a kind of miscellaneous chest of bits and pieces. Now I wanted to have the ability to do more paper trades with my librarian village, especially to get some of them up their initial levels to get access to more trades, and likely more enchanted book trades, as each librarian can have up to 4 different books each. So I expanded my sugarcane farming capabilities. I also started re-getting some diamond gear, as I had the emeralds. Before long, I decided I really wanted to get some melons growing, as melons and pumpkins can be great for trading with farmer villagers, and there's a pretty neat auto farm that you can make with them. To get melons, the easiest way is to go to a jungle biome and look around, as they are pretty common on the ground there. To do this, I checked my seed map on Chunkbase, and since the nearest jungles were thousands of blocks away in any direction, I picked the closest one and used the nether to get there quickly and easily. Because for every block in the nether that you travel, it counts for 8 in the overworld. So I was able to dig a tunnel for a couple of 100 blocks and set up a new portal in the nether. When I stepped back through into the overworld, I was in a cave, but I was able to make my way to the surface and quickly locate a bunch of melons. Now when I got back to the village base place, I reconfigured the pumpkin farm to include melons. By alternating melon plants and pumpkin plants, they both actually grow a bit quicker. I also took the time to fill in the holes around my farming area. I increased the size of my farm plot, and I created the space for nice long rows of saplings to make plenty of trees. Mostly for turning into sticks and trading for emeralds. What fun! I'm playing Minecraft every day for a year. This is day 5. Today, I have one goal in mind. Having recently gotten both melons and pumpkins growing in my little farm, I wanted to build an automatic melon and pumpkin farm, as they can be very useful for trading with farmers and generating lots of emeralds. With what I had already gathered whilst exploring the world, I could already make the observers I would need for the farm, but quickly realised I was going to need much more irons for things like pistons, minecarts, tracks and hoppers. So I went and dug a few tunnels on the iron level and gathered almost exactly what I would end up needing. I crafted the rest of everything that I would need to make the farm, and went up to the top of the hill behind the village to clear a space for the farm. I place down the collection point first, before setting up where the water will go in the middle of the farm. I laid out the main track route for the collection system under the farm before adding in the golden powered rails to keep things moving all the time. With a big square of dirt filled in, I hoed every second block in a checkerboard pattern. I gathered melons and pumpkins for the seeds and filled in alternate rows of melon seeds and pumpkin seeds. With an observer watching each plant to check for when they grow, I used a trapdoor to lay down and place pistons facing down above each untilled block to break any melons or pumpkins that grow. A piece of redstone on the back of each observer makes the mechanism complete. I bought some glowstone from my clerics to keep the interior lit and growing at all times, and along with a quick ring of cobblestone to make sure nothing falls out, and the farm is done. I did notice that only one hopper for the collection area was not going to be enough, so I went and grabbed a quick bit more iron down the mine, and set up a row of hoppers to ensure that any minecart going over the top would be able to deliver everything to the chest. After going and collecting my sugarcane and chopping down some trees, I went to check that the new farm was actually working, and found that yes, it was, and took my new free earnings to trade with the farmers. I started the day with one simple goal in mind: to get a really good enchanted bow and to start upgrading my gear and preparing to return to the end. I knew I was going to need emeralds to buy enchanted books and things, so I got to work on chopping down the rows of trees that I had grown, so I could craft them into sticks and do some trading with the Fletcher villagers. I made sure to collect the saplings and replant the rows of trees so that they can grow whilst I'm busy doing other things. I made sure to start trading with my second farmer to get him to level up, so that he could start offering pumpkin and melon trades. I bought some mending books from the librarian who had the mending trade, and then took the time to level up some of my other librarians by making a bunch of trades with them, because as they level up, they will sometimes offer more book trades. Next, I wanted to partake of my prodigious fishing pole, and proceeded over to the pond to perch upon a pontoon and engage in some piscatorial production. Alliteration aside, my little fishing trip yielded some fantastic loot, including a bunch of enchanted books and several enchanted bows, all of which I could combine to get something close to the bow that I am looking for. Now, whilst I was gathering some more wood for making stick trades, it started to rain, and in Minecraft, the rates that fish bite will increase during the rain, so I quickly went back to the water to do some more fishing, to make the best use of my time. The most important extra thing I got was a nautilus shell to add to my small collection. Sometime soon I might be able to make a conduit to make working in an area underwater super easy. I got some enchantments on my diamond boots and did some more trading, including making use of the produce from my melon and pumpkin farm to get lots of emeralds and XP. After all of the fishing and trading, I finally got some of the enchanted bows and the enchanted books I had acquired all together, and I was able to create a pretty sweet bow. So of course, I had to take it out for a spin. I went to the hill behind the village and took aim to the mobs that were spawning at night, and I murdered the heck out of them. I didn't have much time to play today, but was still determined to make some proper progress. With that in mind, I started by doing a few little chores to ensure a constant production of produce from my farms, especially as I'm doing most of it by hand still. So I started by planting some rows of saplings to make sure I have plenty of wood for trading sticks. I gathered the melons and pumpkins from my manual farm because they're still good for doing trades with, and then I gathered some sugar cane for making into paper for librarian trades. A few of the saplings I had planted had now started growing into trees, so I started chopping them down to focus on doing some stick trades. The thing with Fletchers is that once they're fully leveled up, they can offer a tipped arrow trade, and if you're lucky, that tipped arrow will be an arrow of weakness. This arrow will make the process of acquiring cheaper trades with villagers much easier, as being able to buy them is basically infinite, but brewing the equivalent potion can be tricky to gather all of the components. After buying a bunch of bows and crossbows with the emeralds gotten from the stick trades, all of my Fletchers were max level, but unfortunately, mostly for them, none of them had the tipped arrow that I want, so out comes the flint and steel. The problem I have is that I would need more new Fletchers to trade with, and my villagers' beds were all full, meaning no new villagers were being born who could take new jobs. Also, if I directly attack the villagers, then my popularity with the whole village will go down, leading to iron golems attacking me on sight and villagers charging more for trades. The solution is to kill them indirectly. Say, if the block they are standing on suddenly catches fire for some reason. With the culling done, I decided I want the village to be a little more organised. to make finding the villager I want to trade with much easier. So I tidied up the back wall of the area and placed all of the workplace blocks in a nice long row. I did leave the farmers' composters in place, as I want them to work on the fields and keep the village fed. I gathered the carrots from my separate farm plot and gave them to the villagers, as I really need some breeding to happen soon, and with a few new villagers successfully arriving, my time was up for the day. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below, and thanks for watching. Hit like and subscribe to help my channel grow.